Well, it's a once-in-a-lifetime achievement to make any top 10 in the world list. And for Marjorie Brown, who's on that list for world's top 10 teachers, it's an extremely incredible honor for her contribution to education as well as the development of future generations.
I love the privilege of engaging with youth. I also think that youth, given opportunities, do bring about change in the world. And for me to be able to give the backdrop of what's come before to the youth, for them to make sense of it, helps them then make responsible decisions for their futures. And that to me is an enormous privilege.
Marjorie Brown is a history teacher at Roedean School in Johannesburg, and she's one of the finalists for the $1 million Vaki Foundation Global Teacher Prize.
When I was a little girl, I think even in school holidays, I used to line my brothers and sisters up, and there were several of them, and teach them, even though I was younger than them. And I've always been incredibly curious about life and learning. And if there's something happening and I don't understand it or don't know it, I want to know about it. So it's that curiosity and love of learning. I actually studied a BA BSc, so I can teach maths and English and history, but history is my favorite because in history you can bring out that personal choice that people make to be perpetrators, bystanders, collaborators or resistors. And what makes people make those choices is what fascinates me. My approach to teaching is to, on the one hand, give enough facts that the pupils can analyze, but within those facts, give debate. Because there is no one side to what happened in the past. Also to teach with empathy, so that the pupils can understand why people made the choices they did. And then finally, I also teach in a way that allows me insight into what my pupils' level of understanding is, where they're at, and where the gaps are, and what gaps need to be filled.
As a former human rights activist, Marjorie encourages critical thinking, and some of her learners have represented South Africa at international youth forums.
My favorite thing about being in Mrs. Brown's class is her humor. She's very satirical, and she'll always throw in a little joke here, a little Zapiro thing over there.
My favorite thing about my classes with Mrs. Brown is how she encourages further learning besides the classroom. So you can tell that she's a good teacher because she's a teacher outside of the classroom as well.
Knowing that Mrs. Brown was nominated for this award, I feel that was a perfect showing of how great of a teacher she is, because she's so invested in each individual and each student.
Normally teachers aren't recognized, and I feel like if anyone was to be recognized, she has done so much work to progress education in South Africa that she's completely deserving of the award.
Marjorie is also a champion of improving literacy in South Africa and works with 127 schools as part of a literacy quiz program.
I introduced an international quiz, the Kids Lit Quiz, to South Africa for the well-resourced schools about 13, 14 years ago. And then about 8, 9 years ago, I introduced a literacy quiz, Pendulani, for schools that don't have libraries, because I felt I couldn't work just with the Lanis, with the well-resourced schools. I really needed to work with the kids that don't stand a chance, and that's part of a broader human rights approach, that I think if you're not a part of the solution in our country, you're going to sit and whine. When I teach, I aim to get youngsters to become critical thinkers. I want young people not to accept anything at face value, and my favorite quote is, "Never doubt that a small group of like-minded people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has." And that's Margaret Mead. And it is, and for youth not to get overwhelmed by the problems of society, but actually know they can bring about change.
With her inspirational approach and dedication to encouraging future thought leaders, Marjorie is worthy of being named one of the world's best educators.